everybody. Welcome to yet another Star Trek podcast. My name is Drew, and this is going to be a very different kind of episode. With me, I've brought along only one of my cohorts today. Brad, welcome.
Hello there, sir. I hope the day finds you well.
Brad, I'm mad.
What's going on? Why are you mad?
My computers are broken.
Oh, did you accidentally put it in the dishwasher? I told you not to do that.
How else am I supposed to clean it?
I mean, what you're supposed to use is rubbing alcohol and just drown it in a pool of that stuff, and then you're good.
Oh, submerge it in rubbing alcohol, not submerge it in soapy water. I gotcha.
Yep. And then you know what? If you can, you could always throw it down a cliff and then buy a new one.
That's true. I might take that second option. Buddy, you may notice that there is a distinct lack of gaslighting happening this early in the show, and just kind of wanted to address that right off the bat. We are a duo today. Majeed is not with us.
Yeah, I know. It's just going to be Batman and Robin for the episode. So to all those lovely listeners who look for the wonderful gaslighting of Drew, you will be unfortunately disappointed. Unless I decide to take up the mantle and try to push on forward. But our lovely friend Majeed, he's actually at Starfleet Academy. He is training to be a science officer / videographer type guy. I don't really know how to break it to him that Starfleet Academy didn't exist. So he's kind of like wandering San Francisco at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, the truth of the matter is he had no intention of watching Picard, so we sent him off. We sent him to Alcatraz.
Yeah,
he'll be back eventually.
He's taking the challenge of seeing if he can escape the island himself.
Yeah.
It's like his Tough Mudder.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it. You know, he's got to swim across the water and carry all that massive weight of his talent on his shoulders. But now this is a good opportunity for us to talk about Picard season 3, which is something that we had not originally intended on doing. And since Majeed is unable to be with us today, we decided to sit down and talk about episodes 1 and 2 of Picard and kind of keep it kind of informal, loosey-goosey kind of thing, just have the conversation about the episodes and see where it goes. And before we dive into our thoughts on the actual episodes from the first and second episode of season 3, Brad, let's talk about how we feel about season 1 and 2, because you and I have a somewhat tumultuous relationship with this show thus far.
I think it's to start this episode, we really should give a little bit of a brief overview of those seasons. So season 1 consisted of the memory of Data dying, some strange woman gets killed, and Picard is a wine connoisseur, grown his own stock and everything. And it kind of leads through this whole process that this woman who was killed was apparently one of Data's daughters, where he had twins that was cloned? No, created by, was it Maddox? Maddox?
Yeah. I think that sums it up.
Yeah, and it turns out the clone had a sister. The sister finds Picard. This whole big rigmarole, and they find a happy planet filled with androids that seem kind of creepy.
Yeah, I mean, along the way, Picard discovers a merry band of crew members, including a Romulan assassin named Eleanor. We have...
Wasn't that he a part of some sort of female assassin group that was...
Yeah.
But he's a guy and is a...
Correct.
And then, this is after... Romula? No. Which planet got destroyed?
Romulan.
Romulus. Okay.
Yeah.
So Romulus is destroyed, and then you got 7 and 9 in there. she's a ranger, I guess.
Fenris Rangers, which is a new thing to the Picard universe.
And Ichep, who was from Star Trek Voyager, was killed off in like one of the episodes.
Yeah, he was there for like a cup of coffee.
Well, if even that.
Right.
Then you get this strange doctor woman who's like a assistant, or she used to work with Maddox, or was a lover of Maddox. I don't remember which one was.
She was a little of both. Dr. Girardi, played by Allison Pill. She was lovely in this show. We had Rios, my favorite character by far.
Who is Rios?
The pilot.
Oh yeah. He's not in season 3, so I'm a little disappointed with that.
As of yet.
As of yet. That's fair. But the whole season 1 was a bit of a mess. And
we also have to mention Raffi, because Raffi is
Raffi's still there. She's was a drunk ex Starfleet officer. But the whole season 1 was a bit of a mess. From my perspective, it didn't really mesh too well. The cast didn't. There wasn't a connection, in my opinion, for them. At least nothing very solid to what I was hoping for. And then season 2 hit, and they go back in time because of Q, and bunch of crap happens. Borg Queen is there. Girardi gets taken over by the Borg.
Then she becomes a Borg.
Yes. So she becomes a Borg.
And Q is trying to get, he's trying to, like, I guess, stop the launch of this Europa mission, which is never really defined as to what exactly it's doing. The only thing that we find out is that one of Picard's ancestors is on it, and if the mission doesn't happen, like, bad things will happen or something. There'll be like an alternate universe where it's like the mirror universe, but not the mirror universe, and it's a mess. It's a mess.
It was Brett Singer, Data, the guy who plays Data, is
Brent Spiner.
Spiner, that's what it is. He's in season 2 more than season 1, but he plays one of Dr. Sun's ancestors. And like he created or he cloned his daughter or something. And that's how this mysterious woman and then it ends on a really interesting note with Rios staying in the 21st century, I think it was.
He meets a woman and falls in love with her and kind of likes the kid, and he decides to stay back.
And was it Beverly Crusher's son? Wesley.
Will Wheaton. Wesley.
Wesley Crusher shows up as a traveler and takes away the other lady.
Yeah, well, that's Brent Spiner's daughter that he takes away. But like my entire attitude during that is like, why is he here?
See, I guess I didn't realize the travelers could time travel too, even. So,
but again, why is he there? Like, it's not relevant to the story.
It was a nod. I think it was a nod to fandom, if anything.
Yeah, at best. I mean, like we're doing like a really broad stroke of the season. Obviously, there are a lot more details here that we totally missed. But I think generally speaking, I personally did not like seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. I was very disappointed by them, and I think my biggest complaint was that Picard did not feel like Picard. He felt like a different character. I don't think he was written to the character's strengths. He was written to somebody else's weaknesses, and it just didn't vibe with me in the way that I had hoped it would. And to your point, I think a lot of the crew on the episode or on the season just didn't really mesh in season 1, but they got better in season 2. And I'm generally okay with dealing with that because, season 1s of shows, they're rarely, there's rarely that chemistry.
Well, they're trying to find their foothold. And
right.
and I think that's the thing that we kind of we're hoping to see like established by the end of the first season. And and I didn't, and honestly, I think the way they approached the series, where it went from season 1 to season 2, and it felt very disjointed.
Well, at the end of season 1, Picard dies, right? They drop in a nod to his Iromadric syndrome, which was something that was a thread in the TNG finale, All Good Things. And in like, I think the first or second episode of the season, they mention that it happened, that he's showing signs of it and that it could be lethal. And then they never mention it again until it's suddenly convenient to the plot. And then he dies, and then they bring him back to life as an android. All in the span of like 20 minutes.
Synthetic android. Synthetic.
I'm sorry. And it's just like head scratching to me. Like, why are you doing this? And then in season 2, it's a passing mention at best, and then it's never acknowledged again. And thus far in season 3, it hasn't been mentioned once that I'm aware of.
They did mention it for one split second. I actually noticed it in episode 2.
Okay. So we'll circle back to that part then. But my point being is they went through all these lengths to essentially change the foundation of who Picard is, only to completely ignore it. And why?
But so I guess to the listeners, the whole point is really our takes of seasons 1 and 2 for Picard were very not very well received. That's
I would say negative.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why Majeed hasn't seen it, if we're being completely honest.
We never really encouraged him in that sense. And plus he never saw The Next Generation, I don't think.
No.
If anything, maybe like a few episodes here and there in passing, but I'm pretty sure he didn't watch any of or most of it. But with this season 3 for Picard, I don't know about you, Drew, but I'm seeing a bit of a turn for how this show is appealing to me.
You know, I have gone in expecting the worst, but being optimistic. And so far, while I'm not excited in the way that I was for like Strange New Worlds, but I am enjoying this significantly more than seasons 1 and 2.
I remember having a conversation with you previously before the series aired, and from what you were seeing, you were seeing a lot of negative reviews for this season.
So there was one review in particular that I saw, and I kind of stopped seeking out reviews after this, but one review that I read mentioned basically all of the same complaints that I had with season 1 and 2 about storylines being dropped or rushed or haphazardly thrown together with no logic, and complaints that I had with the characters existing. And I was just like, oh boy, I'm in for it. And, you know, maybe that helped me kind of set the bar so low that I couldn't be that disappointed. Like maybe it set me up for, I don't know.
Well, you set your expectations to, you didn't have high hopes for the show. And
right.
You know, it's funny. Like I think back to the first 2 seasons of Picard, and I remember having very low expectations. I was excited, but also very skeptical. And so going into season 3, I based upon, you know, the reviews I was seeing and your conversations with you, I was kind of like, oh man, this is going to be really interesting. I'm not going to have, you know, probably a good time. I just want to, you know, watch it, kind of get over with. And to be fully honest, what I tend to do with shows like this is I throw it on my computer while I'm doing something else, trying to get work done or something, you know, something to just help pass the time, to have background stuff. And I actually got so invested in the show, I had to stop what I was doing because I was more interested in the show than anything else.
That's a good sign.
It is. And to me, I was kind of surprising, especially since season 1 and 2 kind of didn't pan out very well.
Yeah.
So if it's okay with you, man, I'm going to go into a quick 10-second review, not 10-second review, a 10-second summary of episode 1.
Okay.
All right. 10-second summary of it. So let's start it now. So basically you get the start of the episode where Dr. Crusher is on a ship. She's a total freaking badass, man. She is shooting crap. Everything's blowing up all over the place. Well, eventually she gets incapacitated, but not before
Ding, 10 seconds.
I hate you. I was actually timing it. I still had a lot more than that. Didn't I? No? Damn. Anyways, it was a lot more than going on that. And then she eventually sends a distress call to Picard. Picard is like, hey, where's this distress call coming from? It turns out from like an old comm badge, not really vital to the story, but, you know, important to note. And eventually he talks to his, is that Romulan girl? Is that like his wife now? I don't know.
No, well, I mean, I don't think they're married, but they certainly seem like they're together at this point. Laris is her name.
Yeah.
She is also from season 1.
But she's and she was in season 2, but it was a different person.
Yep. Well, she was both. She was both in that.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you know, he Picard
Exactly.
consults her, doesn't, you know, he's like, hey, you gotta go check it out. He goes find Riker. Apparently Riker and Troy are kind of on the rocks at the moment. And there's some sort of big Federation party that's going on, and well, Riker convinces the captain, hey, let's go check it out. We'll commandeer or talk the captain of a starship to go to where we want to go, which that didn't really go out too well. However, 7 of 9's first officer on the ship disobeys the captain's orders and takes the ship anyways. And they find the ship that Dr. Crusher was on, and her son, not Wesley though, a different son on board. And it ends. That's how the first episode ends.
Yeah. So very, very different feel than seasons 1 or 2. I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, with the opening sequence, I know I hear some people complain about how Star Trek tends to be too action packed in the more modern day. And while I can understand that, I do feel that you still kind of have to move in with the times as far as attracting new audience members. And I felt the opening sequence was actually a really nice surprise for me.
Here's the thing, Brad. Paramount is giving Star Trek all of the money. Don't you want them to use it?
Oh, of course, totally.
Right? Like I think about how excited you and I were when we saw First Contact or even Generations on the big screen for the first time, and it was just better. It was just more and more and better. Special effects and science fiction. And that was, 25 years ago. Right. So here we are now, and special effects have come such a long way. And, I have my own personal criticisms about CG versus practical effects and things like that. None of that matters in this conversation. That was an exciting opening, and that level of quality as far as the visuals go carries throughout both episodes, I feel.
And I think, to me, from being like the growing up on TNG aspect of things, this is like the true first time where you see Dr. Crusher just go full throttle, action packed. At least, I think the closest thing was like First Contact, maybe, where she's like trying to defend from the Borg, but like that was her running away. Whereas this is she's like, I'm standing my ground and I'm gonna shoot with this pistol.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. Something else that I really liked too was, I feel like in seasons 1 and 2, we really didn't get that vision of Starfleet in the future that I don't know how you feel about it, but it's what I really wanted, right? I was so excited that they were going to start doing more Star Trek. And I loved that period of time in the 90s and early 2000s where you had The Next Generation and then Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and they were all kind of running concurrent with each other. And you could see like for, essentially more or less, like I want to say like about a 15-year span, like you saw the Federation, improve over that time. And I wanted to see what the Federation would be like, 30 years, 50 years from that. And we got a glimpse of it in season 1 and 2, but not really, because it wasn't really Starfleet. It was, the outer fringes of the Federation, with sprinkles of Starfleet here and there, but now we've got the Titan. This is like the ship. And man, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. When they came up on that ship and that saucer section, man, it looks like the 1701A, baby. It's got that nice kind of like that thick, like, it's great. And
I'm glad one of us can actually name the ships, because I totally can't.
Oh man. Well, I'm a Starship nerd, right?
Of course.
Like
of course.
I, growing up, I had the tech manual, I had the encyclopedia, and I had no friends. So I spent a lot of time reading that shit over and over and over again. And, one of the things that I love about Star Trek and specifically Starfleet is all these different varieties of ships. Like I can look at a ship and, up to a certain point, name the class ship it is, and, things like that, So seeing them come up on the ship and do those beauty shots of it in space dock, just like they did in the movies, the original series movies, it really invoked that feeling of like Star Trek 3, Star Trek 5, seeing what the ship looked like. And then just drawing the comparisons to other previous ships, it had a little bit of the 1701A in it, had a little bit of the Excelsior in it. It had the nacelles that are kind of similar to the Enterprise E, all these little elements. I see you smiling at me, and because I'm like having a moment, but like, that's the kind of stuff that I really wanted out of this entire series. And I can't believe that we had to wait so long to get that.
I'm gonna say this with all the love in my heart. The only thing I could think of is that Simpsons episode where like Homer is driving and then he just yells out, "Nerd!"
I accept that.
But I have a comment to make, and it's more of an observation than a complaint or anything like that. The observation is that if you think about the bridge of the Titan, and you think about what we've been exposing ourselves to with the Discovery, Strange New Worlds, you can clearly see the design is really pulled from that aspect, as opposed to the shows in the 90s where I'm glad they changed that approach, and they didn't try to do an evolved version of the shows from the 90s, because I feel like that those, like the Enterprise from that time period and Voyager, that really is a show from that period of time and what they felt would be appropriate for like that futuristic look.
Yeah. I mean, new showrunner, new vision,
I'm perfectly fine with the Titans bridge looking like that.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, it has a similar aesthetics to, even the J.J. Abrams reboot, or Strange New Worlds, like you said, Discovery, and it is what it is. It's fine. It just kind of goes back to the special effects being more better.
Yeah.
But that said, it's still like, it looks great. I think it's sharp looking. The bridge looks huge, which is fine. I don't have any complaints there. Can we talk about Captain Shaw for a second?
We most certainly can. The was stick in the mud jackass kind of guy.
Yeah. So Captain Liam Shaw is played by an actor by the name of Todd Stashwick, and I thought I recognized him when he walked on the screen.
Wasn't he in another episode of Star Trek?
But he has been in another episode of Star Trek, but that's not where I know him from. Let's circle back a little bit here. The creator, or I shouldn't say the creator, the showrunner, Terry Matalas, he was responsible for the 12 Monkeys series that was on Sci-Fi for a couple of years, and great show. I really enjoyed it. There's 4 seasons. I think anybody that is into like time travel stuff should consider watching it. I think it's worth your time. And this actor, Todd Stashwick, actually played one of the leads in that show. I think he was a villain, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the character's name. But yeah, so he came from that. And fun fact, another little Easter egg, they dropped the name James Cole as an alternate name for Jack Crusher in episode 2. Well, James Cole was also the name of the actual lead character from the 12 Monkeys show. So I kind of marked out at that a little bit. But anyway, Captain Shaw, right? Kind of a dick.
He's you know what? It's funny. You know, you have those characters that are in shows like this that are complete jerks, assholes, whatever, and you still like them.
Yeah.
Like you like to hate the guy.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of feel with the way he portrayed that character. He's a very clean cut in the sense is that he will not disobey orders. I don't care who you are, unless you like give me legitimate orders, I'm not going to follow you type of attitude. And he did not fall for, you know, Picard and Riker's attempt to be like, oh, let's go over here. He's like, nope, unless you guys are anything special, unless you get direct orders, I'm not following.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also very smug about it too. It's not that he's just by the book. It's that he's also like just really condescending and, you know, and it's just like they laid it on really thick with him too. The first time they met him, because, you know, Picard brings this bottle of wine from his vineyard, and he's like, I'm much more of a Malbec man. You know, he's just like dismissive of this gift, and he just wants no part of them. He wants no part of them being on there. And, yeah. And I was really hoping that we were going to get a moment where it was kind of like, Kirk and company stealing the Enterprise from out underneath the Excelsior in Star Trek 3, and we didn't get that. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get that, but that's okay. This has been quite entertaining as well too. 7 of 9, who is not allowed to use that name anymore. She is Commander Hansen.
Annika Hansen.
Annika Hansen, yeah. First officer on board the ship. Very interesting.
To me, like, I think was she even in Starfleet in the second season? I can't remember.
I think she was trying to get involved,
but
I don't remember.
It is a big jump to, like, you know, between like the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was kind of like, okay, that's kind of like convenient.
Yeah. She was on the Stargazer, wasn't she?
I don't remember. I think that's the problem with seasons 1 and 2 is just was like so insignificant when it comes to like drawing my attention in. It kind of, a lot of it got lost.
It kind of, like, I feel like I should give it a rewatch, but I don't want to.
So many other things to watch. You know, another thing that I think I kind of missed was Raffi. She's undercover on a planet where she's trying to find some sort of stolen weapon technology from like the Daystrom facility, which I want to say that I'm pretty certain that stuff gets stolen from that place a lot. Because
it does seem that way. They have the worst security ever.
I want to say, like, I've seen episodes before where they're like, oh yeah, it's been stolen from here, and I'm like, it's the same freaking place. Can we not get our crap together?
Yeah.
But she's trying to figure something out. And the end of the episode is that somebody opens a giant portal on the planet, sucking in like a Starfleet recruitment academy, and just like destroys it by having it go like right next to it, and so like it's falling and he's like devastated.
It's literally like something straight out of the game Portal, where you take and you put a portal underneath the companion cube, and then you put a portal in the ceiling above the companion cube, and it hits the ground next to it. That's literally what it was, and fascinating, weird but fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, because now we're back to the like. We just can't get past this thing of like having, simple dangers. Like everything has to be like a catastrophic world-ending event, right?
So I miss the days of things like, was it Undiscovered Country, where there's like some sort of political plot to, cause a war between the Klingons and the Federation. And it feels, this is a consistency with current modern day Star Trek, is that there's always that one-upsman where whatever is currently on air, it has to be like something that feels even more significant. I feel like the last season of Star Trek Discovery really showed that, when with the like this whole universe ending type of catastrophe.
The DMA.
Yes. And then you have this with Picard, but it's still, I have neutral feelings on it, only because right now I don't know too much about what is going on with the weapon that caused the portal. So is this something that's like more localized? Is this something that it can only be used a certain number of times? Like I want to see where they go with it, but it does seem a little bit overpowerful of a weapon, so to say.
Yeah. I mean, they jump straight to the, they didn't even like really tease it. It's just like, hey, look what this can do, and it's like immediate destruction.
Because the whole premise with Raffi was there was some sort of Red Lady reference, which was referring to, I guess, a statue at the Starfleet Recruitment Center. And that is really was indicating that it was going to be destroyed. But like the whole setup felt more of like, okay, somebody's got some sort of like weapon, I got to go find them. And I thought the direction was going to be more related towards that, where it was just like trying to find whoever stole this weapon and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. So that really felt like an Easter egg for the fans more than an actual useful plot device, in my opinion. Because the Red Lady was Rachel Garrett. There was a statue of Rachel Garrett, who was the captain of the Enterprise C. So you remember the episode Yesterday's Enterprise?
Is that the one with Tasha Yar?
Season 3, when they go into the alternate universe and the Federation's at war with the Klingons, and the Enterprise C comes through that portal and it's beat to hell. That's Rachel Garrett. She bites the bullet in the in the alternate universe, but I think she would have probably I think she bit the bullet anyway in the proper universe. But regardless, now I'm getting into like timey-wimey shit. That's one of the best episodes of Next Generation, in my opinion. Full stop, right? I love that episode. And so like it was cool seeing a statue of her, but there was no significance. Yeah,
it didn't really. It was just an Easter egg, if anything.
Yeah,
but it was an interesting direction they were taking, where it's a giant, colossal, I guess, building-sized portal gun.
Yeah. So that's a good way to put it. Yeah. I wonder, it's going to be hilarious if the villain is revealed and it's like GLaDOS.
Yeah. It would be kind of appropriate, I guess, in this.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, overall, how did you feel about like seeing Picard and Riker teaming back up again, and did that invoke any emotions to you? And
it felt more a more natural show. There was a lot more chemistry between the two. Obviously they worked so long together. Like there has to be still some chemistry there, but the whole thing didn't feel like it was just stuck together with some, bubble gum and duct tape. It felt pretty solid.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It just felt like old friends, riding off into the sunset for, one more adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And it clicked pretty quickly as expected. We certainly know what to expect from those two at this point. Although it is a little bit more haphazard than it used to be because they're not really following the rules and regulations to a T. But that's okay. Like, I'm fine with that.
I think it's I know I've saw like interviews where saying like they didn't want Picard to turn out to be, next generation season 7, I guess, or season 8 or something.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. This feels more natural progression towards it, is kind of like getting the band back together mentality. Because I like how they're taking a slower approach with like introducing the original cast of TNG. It's not everybody's already available. Let's call Geordi, get him on here. Let's call Worf, get him over here.
Right.
Just it's kind of a more slow progression. So episode 2 takes where episode 1 leads off. So the Picard and Riker find Crusher and her son. There's a giant ship that's waiting to blow them up. This is like an OP ship. It's like freaking Goliath to David, and unfortunately David, he lost his slingshot. And so then you get the Titan, their ship is in a tractor beam. Titan like busts on in, cuts it off, because Seven was able to persuade Shaw with the whole how do you want to be remembered, the guy who let 2 legends die or the guy who saved them? And he's like, damn it, I hate it when you do it. And so he's going in and he saves them. By the way, Geordi LaForge's daughter is the helmsman in that. And on top of that, that is LeVar Burton's real daughter.
Yes, it is on both counts, man. We saw her in episode 1 very briefly. She's got a more significant role in this episode, which I'm glad for. I was really worried they were going to introduce the Titan and then just kind of abandon it altogether.
I know.
So I'm glad that ship is still sticking around for at least the foreseeable future.
At least this and the next one. Yes, you have LeVar Burton's daughter there, and they beam aboard the 4 survivors. So the 2 Crushers, Picard and Riker, the lovely Amanda Plummer.
Yeah, daughter of Christopher Plummer.
She is the villain of the story in this, at least at this part, and she is like, hey, yo, give me that kid or else y'all are gonna die.
This is my first exposure to her that I'm aware of as an actress, and I saw the name and I was just curious to see if there was any relation to Christopher Plummer, who for those that may not have seen, General Chang from Star Trek 6 as Christopher Plummer. Great actor. Go ahead.
You never saw Pulp Fiction?
No. Brad, we're not gaslighting today.
I'm sorry. I need a moment here. This is a very, very sensitive topic. I'm kind of surprised. Okay. Let me compose myself.
No gaslighting.
Woo. Okay, cool. Anyways, she's phenomenal in Pulp Fiction. She's very, very minuscule role. I don't know about that, but she's been in a lot of other things too, which she's a really good actress. But anyway, she's phenomenal as the villain. Honestly, when I was seeing shots of her in the series, I was a little worried because the pictures just kind of looked very meh to me. It didn't really like pop out saying like, oh man, she looks really cool. But the way they portrayed her in this episode I felt very well done.
very menacing, very unhinged, but not like over the top. I get nervous whenever I see that type of character on screen because there's a tendency for it to be cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
She does a great job of just walking that line.
Yep. And she's a bounty hunter who's after, what's his name? Jack Crusher?
Jack Crusher. Who, you recognize that name?
That wasn't that like Will Crusher's father?
Yeah. Yeah. That was Bev's first husband.
Yep. But apparently Jack Crusher goes by many names, and he is like a smuggler type of guy. Oh, by the way, that's how they start the episode too, is that he's a smuggler of sorts. But with the whole villain, I don't even remember what the character's name for Amanda's.
I had it here. Let's see here.
Vadic.
Yes, Vadic.
So Vadic gives them an hour to hand over Jack. So this is one of the problems I have with the episode, which was like, okay, you're a badass villain, and you give them an hour. That's an hour for them to figure things out. Why not like 10 minutes? Why not 5 minutes?
Yeah, well,
plot.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of along the same lines as like, Star Trek's warp speed moves at the speed of plot, kind of thing. Whatever. Movies do that all the time. Even Khan did it.
Yeah,
it was fair. Just enough time for Kirk to figure out the command codes for the Reliant. So, whatever.
So she gives him an hour, but yeah, that was interesting. So Picard goes to talk with Jack and try to be like, hey, give me a reason. What is your justification? Like, how can I give me something that I can protect you with? Jack gives him diddly squat, nothing. But what he is saying is that, hey, you know what? You should just let me go. You should just let me go beam on over there. Now, we kind of cut over to Raffi. She's doing her own little thing still on that planet, trying to figure things out. She's got this mysterious handler who's like, don't follow through with any of this. We're you should just stop doing what you're doing. She doesn't like that BS because she just saw a bunch of Federation people die. She's like, hey, I can't tolerate this. So she ends up contacting her ex-husband, and she's trying to get in touch with a Ferengi, which I think this is the first Ferengi we've seen in modern, or have we seen Ferengis?
In Discovery we have, but as far as Picard goes, I don't think so.
Okay.
So the Ferengi in Discovery was just kind of like a quick passing shot. And I guess there was some contention about the look of them too, because the makeup wasn't the same. I think it was just hey, evolution, kind of thing.
Yeah. But we saw a Ferengi, so Raffi has to decide between seeing her son or seeing this Ferengi that she's trying to get a hold of. So they cut back to the ship. You know what? Vadic is like, hey, you know what? You guys are coming down on time. I'm going to throw this ship at you. So she takes a tractor beam and freaking just chucks it at the Titan. Like, literally just like catch this fastball.
Cool visual, but a little
over the top.
Little over the top.
Because I think the whole point is her ship is supposed to be like so overpowered that like, hey, I'm not even going to use my weapons. I'm just going to use my tractor beam to throw another ship at you. That's how overpowerful I am. Yeah. But anyways, back on Titan, Riker's giving Picard this stink eye look of being like, so what's going on with Jack there? You know what I'm talking about. 20 years ago. What happened with you and Bev? Come on, tell me. What's going on, man?
Yeah. Did you do it? And
Picard's like, what are you talking about, man? I don't know what you're talking about. But it turns out it seems to be that Jack Crusher is Picard's son.
Yeah.
And this is confirmed at the end by the look that Beverly gives Picard, being like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about this. Mixed emotions, I would say. I think it's cool to confirm, that they did actually finally have some sort of a relationship. I know in All Good Things there was, in the future they had a marriage. I don't know if they ever addressed that, whether or not they got married in Picard up to this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, sure, I guess. That's how I feel about it.
I think I'm very I don't care either way.
Yeah, I don't either, because they had their chance to earn it and they didn't, and now they have to earn it all over again.
To me, the it's one of those things that, like, through TNG, you always felt, or at least I always felt, like Picard and Beverly were like the couple that were meant to get together at some point, but they never did.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's kind of a very similar mentality with a lot of the fans from TNG, is that they always had that expectation, but nothing ever really came to be from it.
Right.
And there were indications of like future situations that possibly could occur, that, we would have liked to have seen something maybe occur, but hey, you know what? To me, at this point, there is a lot of history between TNG and the movies and like where Picard is today. And to me, it's plausible for something like that to have occurred.
Right. Right.
It's not so far out there that it would ruin the episode for me, or the entire season for me. So to say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to cry over it or anything like that. I'm just, like I said, it's just like, okay, well, I guess so. Let's see where it goes. Right. Like this could be a very touching story. But I don't know, like, okay.
It's funny though. Like, even in the first episode, I suspected it.
Yeah.
As soon as like he said, I'm her son, I was like, oh my God, it's Picard's son.
Right. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, they weren't just going to introduce a character without there being some kind of a tie-in like that,
Yeah.
So that was obvious.
The only thing,
a matter of time.
The only thing I can think of is that Beverly is lying purposely because she just doesn't want her son to get killed.
I don't think that's the case.
I know, but I'm just always, I'm like super skeptical. I don't know if it's a coincidence, because I just finished an audiobook where the character, this is the, like, I think the 11th or 12th book in, and the character just finds out he has a daughter. And I'm just like, wait, what? And this was like literally, I finished the book like a week before Picard, airs. And then I watched Picard and I'm like, wow, that's a big coincidence. And the entire time of the book, I was like, oh, this can't be his daughter. This can't be his daughter. And it turns out it's his daughter. So yeah, it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see how this turns out in there. But then we cut back to Raffi. Raffi's on the planet. She's meeting with the Ferengi. And she's like, I'm not with Starfleet. I don't know what you're talking about. I got this cred that I need to figure out, who's setting up my client. And the Ferengi's like, oh, I know you're lying. If you're gotta be Starfleet. You gotta prove to me that you're not Starfleet. So
take these drugs.
Yeah, take these drugs, which I was like, you know what? My opinion, if the person's truly embedded, they're gonna take the drugs regardless of whether or not.
But here's the thing, man. Like, they have beaten us over the head with this Raffi's a junkie storyline for 3 seasons now. Right? Come on. Like, how many times, like, is this her only defining characteristic?
So in the defense of the episode, the whole point of her taking drugs was not to prove that she wasn't a part of Starfleet, is because the Ferengi's like, yeah, well, I got the guy's head right here. So that's how I know you're Starfleet.
Right. And like, okay, fine, but like, they had a decent storyline going with Raffi and Seven, and that relationship.
Yeah.
Which I was on board for. But now it's just like Raffi is just reduced to, a constant struggle about whether or not to use drugs. And
so I think that's, I didn't even think about it when we first started talking about it. But yeah, in the end of season 2, Raffi and Seven have some sort of relationship going. And then season 3 hits and we don't even talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm assuming at some point it's going to come around, but
I'm hoping they do. Cause like, I thought it was great. I thought it was a fine relationship, but the highlight of this portion was what happens after Raffi takes the drugs.
Yes.
And the Franky's like, I got the dude's head right here. I know you're with Starfleet. I'm going to kill you. Well, she's, did she pull a phaser? I don't remember. She pulls a phaser or a knife or whatever. And then all of a sudden the 3 bodyguards behind Raffi gets like destroyed. Yeah. A batolith goes through one guy's head, gets cut off. The Franky's head gets cut off. Is chaos everywhere. And it turns out to be Worf. Worf goes badass.
The first thing that we see is a blade going through the chest, one of the guards. And I immediately thought, oh, Elnor's back. And like, I was there for that, man. Like I thought like, hey, I'm like, oh shit, Elnor's back. I could see, like, I don't remember where they left off with him, but him pairing himself with Raffi as a hopeless cause sounds like something that he did or would have done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I genuinely don't remember if that's how they resolved his story, but they should have.
I don't even remember if he's alive, because I know at some point during season 2 he's dead.
Yeah. Well, he died, and then he's alive again. Q resurrected him or something through the magic of Q-ness. But so yeah, like that's something that I think should have happened. Now, that said, I think this is a very interesting way to bring Worf into the story. Worf, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it turns out Worf is Raffi's handler. He is the person that Raffi is in contact with Starfleet. And because he's like, I told you to not engage.
Right. And I thought that was a fun quip. You could see him. He was like clearly annoyed, in his typical Worf fashion. Very curious to see where this is going. What does he know? What is his purpose? What is he doing? And how is that going to loop in with everything else that's going on? Because they seem like they're 2 very distinct stories right now.
It does, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be intertwined at some point.
Absolutely.
It has to be. But then after, I'm pretty sure after Raffi gets saved by Worf, it cuts back to the Titan, and Picard's like we can't give him over because he's my son. And then that's where Shaw has a moment of redemption in my mind, is because Shaw's like, crap. All right, we got to resist now. Yeah. And then
he did the right thing.
And Titan, he orders the Titan to start like firing the head into the cloud of the nebula, whatever the hell it was. And he's off for the races, man. And like, that was to me one of those moments where like he's a complete smug asshole, but when shit hits to a point where he knows he has to stand up, he's standing up.
Right. Well, here's the thing, right? And this is one of the things that I've always loved about, Star Trek is, instead of just getting into a straight up firefight, you have a ship that's outclassed and underpowered. And that's a relative term because the Titan is, I'm sure, armed to the teeth. But in comparison to this other vessel, doesn't stand a chance, right? Fleeing into a nebula to hide, where the sensors basically, kind of become useless. And now the fight is a little bit more on a level playing field, and it gives them some time to figure out what to do next. Classic Trek trope. We've seen it time and time again, all the way from Star Trek 2, Best of Both Worlds, even in Insurrection, if I recall correctly, in that Briar Patch fight. We've seen it over and over and over again. I love it. It's submarine battles, with no radar. And
Well,
that's what they do best.
They did it even in Strange New Worlds.
Yes. Exactly.
Most
exactly.
Before, yeah.
With the Gorn, right?
Yep. That was the Hunt for Red October.
Reference. I loved that. I loved that so much.
But I think so. Drew, tell me, what are your thoughts on how season 3 has been shaping up for us? Now that we talked about the two episodes.
I mean, so far it's not perfect, right? I have some complaints. Raffi's story has been somewhat disappointing so far, and I'm hoping that Worf can redeem it. But like I said before, Raffi has been reduced to an addict and nothing more. A persistent addict, right? She doesn't know when to back off, and she doesn't know how to stay away from things that make her take drugs. So there's more to that character than that, and the actress is capable of more than that, and I want to see more than that. And I feel like they've done her a disservice on this show, just in general, and it's continuing here. But I'm willing to see where it goes. Now that Worf is in the picture, I can see the banter between the two of them being fun. In a way that's similar to the banter that we got with Worf and Jadzia. So I'm kind of curious. As far as everything that's going on in the Titan with Picard and Beverly, there needs to be some sort of a payoff there. I want to see how that resolves or even how it starts. I want to know that backstory. How long ago was Jack born, and was it just a one night thing, or were they like really in love for a while and it just didn't work out? And how did they separate, and how are they going to reconcile that Picard is a robot? And, all these little things that really have been kind of brushed aside up to now.
So you mentioned Picard being a robot.
Yes.
So in episode 2, when Vadic you first meet Vadic, she describes as oh, Shaw, your psychological profile from Starfleet, does suit you or doesn't suit you. I can't remember what she said, but she also was like, oh, Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, with how's your synthetic body? So she does make a reference, but my opinion, I don't think we're going to hear anything more than that.
That's the last time, the first and last time this season you're going to hear anything about that.
Now, I feel like in season 1 they did that because it was going to be a big thing, or at least they thought it would be a big thing. But at this point, it feels like it's only mentioned because it's a fact and they have to reference it, and they dug themselves into a hole where it's forced to. So at this point in my mind, I can just ignore that because it's not relevant. There's no importance to it. That's how I'm suspecting it's going to turn out to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different showrunner now too, right? So Terry Matalas has been doing seasons 2 and 3. Michael Chabon did season 1. I don't know if Michael Chabon is still involved in the show in any capacity. He's listed as a creator, which is true, but I don't know if there's any creative input beyond season 1 or even why he left the show in the first place. But it's just like that's the problem when you have these shows that unfortunately change creative direction. They write in elements that the next person just may or may not want to deal with, and I don't think that making Picard a synthetic was a good decision, because it just didn't mean anything. It happened so suddenly, and it just has no bearing on anything. And they had an opportunity to do something with it in season 2, and they didn't.
Yeah. I think at this point it's in the past. It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't. And I should really learn to let it go, but
it's a struggle. I get it. But to me, I don't know. So I like season 3. I'm actually really enjoying it. And the thing that I don't know is that, do I really like season 3, Or is it that seasons 1 and 2 had such poor taste in my mouth that season 3 is so different that I'm like enjoying the fact that it's something that's good as opposed to like me really just enjoying it for what it is?
Right. And that's a fair question. You know, I think I don't think it's unreasonable to ask yourself that. We both feel pretty much the same way about, seasons 1 and 2.